Talal Ahmad here, March 6, 2013, the day after Election Day. I was asked by a few people to do a post-election review. So I'm here with Umar Lee, author, intellectual, activist, political analyst. We're going to get his perspective on the election and what that means for St. Louis. Umar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, Father God.
Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah.
So here we are, man, March 6, 2013, day after Election Day. As you already know, Slay's back in room 200. Miss Ingracia is in the 6th Ward. Shantias is in the 1st Ward. Bosley is still holding on to the 3rd Ward as he has been for almost 40 years. Miss Hubbard's in the 5th. Jennifer Florida's in the 15th. French is in the 21st. And Chris Carter took over his uncle's ward in the 27th. What does this all mean for St. Louis?
Well, first of all, I want to start at the top with the historic re-election of Mayor Francis Slay, which will give him a 4th term into office. It's Slay Day. I supported Slay. I had the campaign slogan, I wouldn't vote for Reed if I was high on weed. Unfortunately, the Slay campaign didn't use it, but alhamdulillah, they won anyway. I was very comfortable in my support of Francis Slay. I've watched this city progress under his leadership. I've watched the quality of life improve in this city under his leadership. And I think we're heading in the right direction. And the majority of the voters of St. Louis decided to stay the course, take the course of certainty, and to neglect the path of uncertainty, which is the path that Louis Reed would have put us upon, the path of uncertainty. And we're going to stay the course. And it was a great campaign effort. And I was glad to play a very small role in it. I would just say this about Mayor Francis Slay. I've traditionally been very skeptical of Southside politicians, of white Southside machine. I know their history. I know what a lot of them about, historically have been about, and some even to this day. But I'll say this about Mayor Francis Slay. As a Muslim, when local Muslims were attacked post 9/11, Mayor Francis Slay came out immediately and said, don't target Muslims, don't stereotype Muslims. Anytime the Muslim community has needed to reach out to Francis Slay, the mayor has been there for us. Mayor Francis Slay has been a friend of the Muslim community, and I believe that's why he got a lot of Muslim support, and I campaigned within the Muslim community myself. The Latino community. Mayor Slay could have got a lot of brownie points with many elements of his Southside base if he would have been on the anti-immigration platform. But Mayor Slay is learning to speak Spanish. He's reaching out to the immigrant community, and he said in his victory speech, he wants to open up this city to immigrants. So I think this is a new kind of a St. Louis politician. I think he's a non-ideological politician, and I think he's trying to bring St. Louis into the modern era, to a modern, diverse city.
And I see. Well, I want to ask you this concerning the statement you made about the Slay administration improving the quality of life for St. Louisans. And I know you. I know you're not a bigot. Grew up in the hood, then lived in ghettos all across the U.S. by choice.
Brownsville, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, East Orange, New Jersey, Southeast D.C., west end of Atlanta. Off of Truths in Kansas City, Oak Cliff in Dallas.
Right. The blackest white boy I know. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if you had a Jerry curl in '86. But my thing
I had the fake goals from Gus's.
Right. Yeah. My thing is this right here. So I agree. Over the last decade or so, the city has progressed. It's become more integrated, more progressive. The Loft District, downtown, the Entertainment District on Warsh Ave, as they say, all that development, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. East Loop, all of that. So, and myself, I'm a Muslim. So, I appreciate any kind of advocacy and attempts to understand the Muslim community. But as far as the black community is concerned, would you say that they have been marginalized or isolated from all of this progress, or?
Well, this is a historic issue, of course. I'm trying to say St. Louis was a Jim Crow segregated city. We live with many of the legacies of that. We live with the legacy of white flight, where most white people that could left the city, and starting from the 50s all the way on to the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
We live with all those legacies here in St. Louis. We live with the legacy of slavery. All of these things are within our culture, and they're here. I'm trying to say. But I believe that Mayor Francis Slay, he has not been like some of the white mayors of the past, or he wouldn't have got the endorsement of Jamila Nasheed and many others. I'm trying to say, if you look at his endorsement list, there are many prominent African Americans that were on that list, and he would not have got that endorsement if that was the case. Now, there is a racial disparity within the city. There's no doubt about that. There is a racial disparity north of Delmar. There's no doubt about that. I'm trying to say. And that disparity exists in St. Louis County, by the way, between North County and West County. It exists in St. Clair County, between East St. Louis and Belleville, and Fairview Heights. I don't believe Louis Reed was someone that was going to be able to appropriately address that. If we look at Louis Reed, he spent his whole political career basically rubbing shoulders with liberals in the Central Corridor. The majority of them white.
Craft beer drinkers.
Craft beer drinkers, right. And the vast majority of them white. He made his career as a new kind of a black politician, similar to Adrian Fenty, the former mayor of Washington, D.C., or Cory Booker, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. Didn't show a lot of concern for black issues during his entire political career. Didn't hire black staffs. Didn't hire black campaign directors. And then within the last year, he tries to turn himself into a new version of Marcus Garvey, a new version of Stokely Carmichael. And a lot of people went along with that. But those people would have been sorely disappointed had Reed won, because he would have hired the same type of people he's hired in the past. His staff would have looked a lot like a Lafayette Square cocktail party. And he would have used the people to get the vote, and then they would have got a very small return on their investment into Louis Reed. Louis Reed himself ran a good part on some naked racial politics, tried to exploit some issues. Brought people like Brother Anthony Shaheed into the campaign and other people like that. Other people who had been funded by Libya, and now the funds are dried up. They thought they might be able to ride the Reed gravy train. But it didn't work out, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people saw it, like, hey, man, this guy hasn't been concerned about issues in the black community his whole political career. And they've seen him, and they didn't really believe him, didn't really trust him. I believe a Reed mayor of St. Louis would have looked a lot like Adrian Fenty in D.C. And what Fenty was an African-American mayor who got into office and fired hundreds, if not thousands, of African-Americans, replacing the vast majority of them by whites. And under his leadership, the black population of D.C. plummeted, moved out to Prince George's County, Maryland, to the point now where blacks are less than 50% of the population in Washington, D.C. And he could do things that a white mayor would not have been able to do politically. And I believe Louis Reed would have been that same kind of mayor for the city of St. Louis. That's why I found it ironic he has so much support in the African American community.
Well, from me talking to different people and groups about this race for Room 200, and I heard a lot of people say things along the lines of, Reed's a bureaucrat or aristocrat, and that a lot of the things that Slay did over the last 12 years, he basically had to sign off on before them to become law. But at the same time, I've also heard people say, well, it's been proven that Slay's administration disregards the black community. Let's at least give this brother a chance and see what he's going to do. And at the very least, even if he does a bad job, it can't be as bad of a job as the slave administration has done, and then the mere fact that he is a black man, that's an image that black youth need to see, and that the black community could have used as fuel to
That was an argument.
be optimistic.
Yeah, that was an argument that many people made. That's an argument many people believed in. That's their right. At the end of the day, Louis Reed was not able to turn out to vote in North St. Louis. At the end of the day, Francis Slade did get a sizable number of votes in North St. Louis and in the black community and in the white community. And at the end of the day, Louis Reed was not able to effectively convince the people with his arguments. So it's a past tense. It's Slade Day. Slade won the election. The city said we don't need Reed, and that's what it is.
I see. So this business about Senator Nasheed endorsing Mayor Slade, a lot of people tend to are saying that she had a lot to do with Reed not winning the election, because so many in the black community trust her opinion and basically rode with Slade simply off the premise that she endorsed him.
Well, it wasn't just Jamila. It was Congressman Lacey Clay and others. So she was not the only one that came to the conclusion that Mayor Slade needed to be reelected. So she was not the only one, and she made the decision to support Mayor Slade, and she'll deal with the pros and cons of that.
Do you think that her decision and Mr. Clay's was based off of kickbacks and perks, or based off of issues? Because people are saying that well, anyway, what's your opinion on that?
I don't think it had anything to do with kickbacks and perks. It was just a political decision. They looked at the situation. They thought Mayor Slade was the best man for the job, and just looking at the numbers, they knew Slade had that Reed had a very low likelihood of winning the election. And they put the money on the right horse.
I see. So, what does all this mean for St. Louis?
I think we're going to continue to move forward. I think Mayor Slade's going to continue to lead us into the right direction. He's a man. He's a politician. He'll make mistakes like everybody else, and when he does, the people can hold him accountable. But I think we're headed in the right direction. This is a better St. Louis than the St. Louis of the 70s, or the 80s, or the 90s. It's a better St. Louis than it had been in years past, and this city is headed into the right direction. I outlined many of the reasons why I think the city's in a better place and why I supported Slade in an essay on my blog at umarlee.wordpress.com, which people can feel free to check out.
So, Mr. Lee, I don't want to just keep on talking about the mayor's office, this, that, and the other. But the thing of it is, it can't be denied that the city has progress. We got a lot of development, a lot of
city's cleaner.
All of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about the very isolated black community, some would say that the black community has actually gotten worse from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when we actually did have at least that family structure.
Well, first of all, that's not true. That family structure had been breaking down since the 60s. So, and the crime rate was much higher in North St. Louis in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Yeah.
Let's not blame the family structure, the breakdown of the black family structure on Mayor Slade. Right. What about just plain old goods and services, sidewalks, curbs, demolition of these vacant buildings?
Well, one of the big issues that we got is a massive population loss, and that's been going on for decades, way before Mayor Slade. And with the black community, it's going out to North County in bulk. When you see these churches, they're full on Sunday, but half the congregation and prior to the preacher living in North County, if not St. Charles County. So you're dealing with a lot of population loss. I live in Old North St. Louis and St. Louis.
And political corruption as far as like ward politics.
And ward politics, political corruption. Old North St. Louis, St. Louis Place lost 70% of the housing. 70%. So it's very difficult to effectively provide services when 70% of the housing is gone. So it's a lot of issues, structural issues in the city of St. Louis. What Mayor Slay is doing, and what you have to do is two things: make the city an attractive place to live, to bring people into the city, to move in the city, and number two, run an immigration-friendly administration to attract immigrants to the city to help bring the population back.
Ward politics. What's the difference between North City politics and South City politics?
I mean, the game is all the same, really. It just takes different manifestations. But the game is all the same. 28 wards, 28 aldermen. Thank God they're going to cut it in half, because most of these aldermen run their wards like little fiefdoms. Most of them have Napoleonic complexes and see themselves as the emperors of their little ward. The ward system is the ward system is not bad, but the power of the alderman is too much in this city. If you want to do any business in the ward, you got to bend over and
slide some under the table.
Slide some on the table to the alderman. The aldermen just have too much power in the city of St. Louis, and many of them abuse that power.
So let me ask you this: if we got 28 wards and we're going to basically cut that in half to 14, which means that these alder persons will have more land, more houses, more constituents to deal with, doesn't that give these people more power?
It's not just about cutting the board in half. It's about reducing the power of the board of aldermen. It's a two-pronged approach. You know what I'm trying to say? So you first reduce it, and then you work at reducing the power of the board of aldermen.
So this is something that people are talking about.
This is something people are talking about. Yeah.
Right. I see.
You want to get to the ward races?
Yeah. So let's start off with your ward, 5th Ward. Tamika Hubbard won that election. What does that mean for the 5th Ward?
Well, like I said, my campaign slogan for that was very simple. If you want to keep food in the cupboard, vote for Hubbard. If you want to get beat like Ike and Tina, vote for Medina. That was my campaign slogan for that race. Tamika Hubbard, she's a young politician. She's learning on the job. She's made some mistakes. I've disagreed with her on many times. This re-election hopefully will allow her to grow, to become a better alderwoman during this term, to work on some of the mistakes that she had. But the Hubbard family has got a vicious ground game. They know the people. If any Hubbard is in front of my house on the 1400 block of North Market, it'll cause a traffic jam. People honking, people waving, people getting out to talk to them. The Hubbard family is a known family in the 5th Ward, all throughout the 5th Ward.
So is popularity more important than ethics, or what do you mean by that?
Popularity is important. People want to go with a name that they trust. The people trust the Hubbards, they know the Hubbards, and they went with the Hubbards. When we talk about Medina, she had quite a bit of money. A lot of mailings come out from her. I got a lot of mailings at my house. But people didn't really know her. Who is this Medina? You know what I'm trying to say? So it's an issue of, if you got to choose someone you know and someone you don't know, most of the time they're going to choose the person that they know. Let me say two more issues in the 5th Ward. The day before the election, I got a dirty campaign mailing with a 3971 Merrimack return address on the south side, which posted Facebook pictures of Tamika Hubbard partying and having fun. Okay? That's typical old school dirty politics. There was no attribution. There was no name of sender. It was just some dirty politics. Whoever sent it didn't want to stand behind their own work. That really had nothing to do with the race. This was just dirty politics. And also, Medina, Ms. Hutchins Medina, she wanted to introduce police cameras in the 5th Ward, which is already proven 21st Ward. It can be politically abused and used to violate the civil liberties of residents, and I oppose that as well. So even though I don't agree with Tamika Hubbard on every issue, I felt she's the right person for the job, and I voted to keep food in the cupboard and vote for Hubbard.
Speaking of keeping food in the cupboard, like as far as these mistakes that you mentioned of Miss Hubbard or the Hubbard family, like in reference to what? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the whole McKee issue has been problematic. The time to fight that was at the initial stages. Now the McKee development has gotten so far that there's really no other choice but to go forward because the land is already vacated. So that whole history, it's problematic, but it's really in the past tense because it's already done, and there's no choice but to hope to make it work at this point in time.
I see. 21st Ward. That was a very important election, not just for North St. Louis and the 21st Ward, but for St. Louis. As you know, Antonio French was the campaign manager for Reed for mayor, and he actually
Not the manager. He was the campaign person. That the manager.
Okay, well,
Glenn Burley was the manager. Yeah.
Okay, well, my bad, but
Right.
he was involved with the organization of the campaign,
Right.
And he's a major public figure,
Right.
And he kept his seat here in the 21st Ward. What does that mean for St. Louis? What does that mean for the 21st Ward?
Well, first of all, let me say that I support his opponent, Kerry Wilson. Kerry's a great guy. Campaign his heart out, and you win some, you lose some. It's how you play the game a lot of times. And Kerry carried himself with honor and dignity, and he has nothing to be ashamed of. And I'm proud of Kerry Wilson, and I'm proud to call him a friend. And God bless him in whatever he may do in the future. What it means is the people of the 21st Ward decided. That's the democratic process. You win some, you lose some. We abide by the democratic process and respect the outcome of elections. Obviously, it's not the choice I would have hoped. He's used the police cameras for political uses. He's violated civil liberties of people in the ward. He's roughhoused local business owners. He's had an adversarial relationship with the youth, and he's been heavy-handed. But hopefully Mr. French can learn from his mistakes and become a better alderman, because we all need him to be a good alderman. You don't root for someone to do bad, and I'm hoping he learned his lessons and will be a better alderman into the future.
Let's see. The First Ward.
First Ward, I used to live in the First Ward in the 5300 block of Geraldine when we first rehabbed that building. Well, Sharon Tyus is back. She said she would haunt the board of aldermen, and she's back. And God help us. Her last go round was not too impressive. She was one of those politicians who thought they were royalty, thought she was an emperor, and she was really a pain in a lot of people's sides. So, having said that,
so was Mr. Troop that bad to where people?
I don't think there were really no good choices in that race. You know what I'm trying to say. So I really, it was really, I wouldn't be putting any of those signs in my yard if I was still living in the First Ward. It just is what it is. So hopefully Miss Tyus has matured a little bit and is not quite as hostile as she was in her previous tenure.
Right. 27th Ward. Chris Carter took over his uncle's ward, special election after the tragedy, and he won the election yesterday. What do you think about Mr. Carter in 27th Ward?
Well, he got the overwhelming support, the people in his ward. It was kind of a nasty race, but at the end of the day, he come out victorious, and God willing, he'll be a good alderman in this tenure.
All right. Chrissy Ingracia, she took the 6th Ward. She was up against Robin Wright Jones' son, Damon, and Michelle Woodhouse. What do you think Mrs. Ingracia is going to do for the 6th Ward?
Well, I saw your interviews that you did with the various candidates, and it's on the south side, so I wasn't really paying that much attention to it. But I saw Tashara Jones and Vervis Jones say this was a friend of their family and someone they supported, and I have a lot of respect for their political opinions. And based on that, and other people I know who like Miss Ingracia, I think it's a good development.
So, with where we are now, where will St. Louis? What will St. Louis look like in 4 years?
Continued progress, more diverse city, more young people moving in the city, more immigrants moving in the city, more revitalization. Rehabbing houses, more businesses opening, and the crime in schools are the big issues in the room. But those are cultural issues, social issues, and they really is a matter of the soul, really. And we have to reform some people. The Quran says Allah doesn't change the condition of people; to change the condition of yourself. So you start with yourself, then you go with your family, then you go with your block. So this is a long struggle, a long fight. But I have no doubt that the city of St. Louis is improving, and we should improve ourselves along with that to make this place a better place for us all to live.
I see. Umar Lee, thanks so much for coming by the 21st Ward Hollering at me.
problem.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.